Welcome to the last round of the Qatar Masters 2014, and it's been a great tournament. And here we are, starting a bit earlier than usual, Danny.
Yeah, bit of a struggle.
Bit of a struggle. Make sure I have my massive breakfast: the scrambled eggs on toast, salmon, some French toast, everything. I had everything for breakfast, so I'm well prepared today.
It looked like a classic dog's dinner.
It was the dog's dinner, a good old English dog's dinner. So I needed some energy today, but I'm very excited about today. And we've come into the money round, should I say. This is where the professionals fight for their rent money in the last round of the tournament. And I expect Kramnik doesn't have any problems paying his rent, but he's in clear first on 7 points. And we will look at the standings now. Here they are. So Kramnik having a brilliant tournament, Danny, on 7 points, out there on the lead, but a ball one encounter. So exciting because he's got the black pieces against this young Chinese player.
Well, I think that's good news from our point of view, because with we can see Yu Yang sitting there at the board already, and he's already played his first move. Kramnik not at the board yet. But Yu Yang, 20 years old, really bursting through on the chess scene, scored, I think, an incredible score in the Olympiad. I think it was 8.5 out of 10 for the Chinese team.
I think he got ball prize, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I mean, his performance was, outstanding at the Olympiad. So with the white pieces, that's very important. So he does have a chance to, actually play for first prize. We can see from the standings if he wins.
I mean, we should point out that Kramnik is not at the board yet, and according to my watch, it's 12:03, and there is a default time. I just want to point this out of a quarter of an hour. So, okay, he's got 12 minutes. Do you think he's overslept?
No.
Do you think he's overslept?
Do you know what?
Think so.
I think Vlad.
Here he comes. With his bag. Do you notice he takes his little bag everywhere, like a true chess player? He's got his little plastic bag.
I think he's got supplies in there.
I think so.
Basically, what he does is he stocks up from the buffet in the hotel, and he's got nuts and dried fruits
he's got
and
maybe
stuff
a fresh fish in there. He's about to,
Could be. Yeah, grill on the side. No, I think he goes for nuts actually.
Nuts, a big bag of nuts.
Yeah, but not just nuts. A few other things in there, but I think he stocks up. But he's normally, for the rounds at 3:00, he's pretty late down. I see him there dashing into the restaurant at about 3:45 normally. He throws some lunch down and then comes in. So I think that's what he's done
one
today.
One thing I've noticed about Kramnik as well, I've never really seen him around at a tournament before, but I noticed him yesterday, and everywhere he goes, he seems to pretty much run. He seems to move at twice the speed of a normal human. I mean, I pretty much stroll everywhere, but Kramnik just moves at hyper speed. Well, he walks like he's doing a walking race. I
think that's just because everything seems a rush in these kind of tournaments. He's trying to sleep as late as possible, prepare, and I think that's the way. And he's slightly late for the round. I wouldn't say normally. I've seen a lot of him over the years. Normally he's not such a rusher, but I think there is something about this tournament. There are no rest days. There've been 9 games in a row, and that's very tough. And it's incredible how time just in between the games just disappears. You're trying to calm down, and
it goes very quick.
We should mention
maybe Berlin today. I'm just going to say
the ages of the two players.
Yeah,
Yu Yang, 20 years old. Kramnik, 39 years old, almost twice the age. We'll get into their game in a second. But it's very interesting to see who's in second place. Well, it's actually Yu Yang, but you'll see there that Giri has dropped down to equal third on 6 points. He lost his second game in a row. Big surprise to us, considering the position he had on the board yesterday, at least the end game. I think we might like to take a quick look at how Anish Giri lost that game yesterday. Sure. He was playing Yu Yang. I think, now we've got a video of yesterday's game.
So we can see the video here. And
these are the final moments.
These are the final moves. And obviously, I think what happened here is very clever play and very professional play by Yu. Because what Yu did, he'd been playing around for the last 30, 40 moves, not really doing much with the position. And we're going to come on to the end of the game now, just to describe it. What Yu did, which is very, very professional, he got Giri shorter time, And as soon as Giri got very short of time, then you struck with, well, he tempted Giri into a tactic and he took his opportunities. But if we go to the position now, I'm just going to bring this up on move 86, we can see Giri there. Actually, you know, I'm warming to Giri quite a lot, actually, because even after losing this game, a very important game, he looks gracious in defeat, and he left a very positive tweet after the game saying, look, I lost this game, but I'm still having a great time and I want to win the game tomorrow. So, you know, that's really good, you know, gracious in defeat anyway, which you don't always see.
We should mention the time control there. I mean, I think you're absolutely right that Yu Yang-yi employed the tactic of wearing Giri down. After move 40, the players get an extra 30 minutes plus their 30 seconds for each move. But that time disappears very quickly.
Quick, yeah.
So
no time to go to the toilet, Danny.
No breaks. So we've got the position on the board. So basically, Yu Yang-yi had reached this position with queen and knight and 3 pawns against Giri's queen, bishop and 2. And he'd been just manoeuvring around. I mean, here, actually, white can still wait, and he should be okay.
Wait, yeah.
But Giri seized his moment. You know, he was short of time and thought that this was a draw. Maybe I can just.
It's a very. If you are short of time, it's very dangerous. I think this is the wrong decision, unless you could see on the video there that Giri literally had, you know, minutes, seconds left, and he goes for a very complicated tactical sequence here, but he hasn't calculated properly. If he had more time, I'm sure he would have found Black's best response.
First, let's see what happens if Black actually takes this piece. Then White is able to make a draw by perpetual check. Coming up the board would not be best policy, as that's actually checkmate. So basically, Black's king has to stay behind, and then I think we can see very plainly that that's just a draw by perpetual check. So that's what Giri had in mind. But in fact, he said after the game that he'd seen queen h2, but just thought, well, there must be something here for white.
But the thing is, you know, if you haven't calculated the response, then you shouldn't go bishop takes h6 in time trouble. It's a bad practical decision, but
there are some
he's tired.
Very, very clever tactics here, actually. Okay, well, first of all, we can see that Black is threatening to whip some pawns off here, and that will be the end if both pawns disappear. Giri took on g7. Again, if the bishop is taken, it's perpetual check. But look what happens, and there's some very clever footwork here by the queen. So if the king steps here, then you can see the queen is captured at the other end of the board. So that's the major theme in the position. So Giri stepped back. If the king goes forward, now let me see. I think this is actually leading to mate with a check. Yeah, that's right. So the king, again, can't go to the e-file, but I think we're going to get the king up the board. We've got to do this right, but I think this is going to be mate. So check here, check. That's right, and we play knight f4. So it's pretty delicate.
Yeah, I mean, it's lost now. I mean, it's lovely finish by you. Really, really beautiful. Knight e4 is a move that is quite easy to miss, actually. It reminds me of the W technique for some reason. You know, this W technique, bishop and knight versus king. Yeah. Just because the knight sort of pops back, it looks like the white king has a lot of squares to manoeuvre too. And here, white resigned. Let's have a look. Incredibly, I know it's hard to believe because the king and queen are separated. They're so far away. But Black is going to win with a knight fork here. Watch this. It's absolutely beautiful. So, queen fork.
Yeah, or a queen fork. So, for example, if king d3, we play queen d2 check. The knight is immune. We've got this one. And here comes the knight fork. Knight d6. And if we go back, well, again, this is hopeless. We play queen f2, and we lead to the same variation. So, it's a very impressive finish. But you know, Yu Yang-yi had more time. And you know, was able to negotiate these tactics. So that's how we got to this situation where Yu Yang-yi is in clear second place. Do we see the standings?
So this is Anish Giri's tweet that I mentioned after this game, and I think this shows a great attitude. Actually, hope to end the tournament on a high note tomorrow. in any case, quite refreshing after my 10 draws in the Grand Prix. So he's even making a bit of a joke after losing 2 games in a row. Now, I know a lot of Grandmasters, maybe including myself, who would probably not be joking after leading a tournament on a great start with 6 wins out of 6, losing 2 games, and he's still able to have a joke, which for me just shows a great attitude. And I have to say, I'm warming to Giri. Even after his rather strange facial displays sometimes at the board, which may be just some weird little facial problem he has. I don't know. But I'm warming to the guy. I'm warming to the guy. Even though I just insulted him, I didn't mean to. I apologise.
Giri's trying. No, I mean,
but,
to me, my feeling about Giri is that, you know, he's still very, very young. And I think, you know, he's got something to learn, actually, at the board. I mean, I think we've got to tell it like it is. And he's a very cheeky guy. He's got a sense of humour.
He's got a wicked sense of humour.
Yeah, and not everyone warms to that. They think he's, you know, a little bit too cheeky. I like the sense of humour.
Yeah, it's very English.
But it is very English. Yeah. But the funny thing is, I was speaking to someone from Singapore here, actually, who I won't say his name, but he said that.
Probably only about one person from Singapore.
Yes, I've probably given his game away. But he actually said he doesn't get his sense of humour. He thinks he's being disrespectful. Right. So I think that, you know, humour it's very cultural, actually. Yeah, you know, again, a lot of English humour doesn't go down well in the States. I know that.
No, of course not. No.
They think we're being sarcastic or something, whereas I think we're being ironic.
Yeah, I could say a lot of things about that, but I won't.
No, but it's interesting. Humour is cultural, and actually, I agree with you. Anish's humour goes down well in England, but
it certainly does. I think he's actually got a wicked sense of humour, and you know, just to tweet that after his loss, I think, you know, it shows the human side to him, and he's going to be obviously a great candidate for the future.
We can see Giri's opponent there, Vladimir Akopian from Armenia, a veteran. I can't believe I'm saying that he's a veteran of these
silver hair fox.
Exactly.
So that was Akopian, and we saw Akopian win yesterday. And again, here we have Maxime Legrave on board 3 with a white piece. And actually, his opponent Afomenko is in a great position on 6 points, but Afomenko, let's just have a look at the standings again there. So, I mean, if you think about the big money thing, the board 1 encounter decides first prize. That's a big one. But then board 2, this is for second prize potentially, and Afomenko even has a chance of winning the very, very juicy and large paycheck for second prize. And all these guys on 5.5, Danny, I mean, I've been in this situation in tournaments before. You're sort of just a little bit behind, and to win a nice paycheck, you really, in this situation, got to go for a win in this position.
Well, we should mention the prize money, because all those players on 5.5 definitely have something to fight for. First prize is $25,000, not a bad payday. Second is $15,000. Third is $10,000, and then we have fourth $7,000, fifth $6,000, all the way down to 10th, which is $1,500. So all those players on 5.5 really have something to play for. A win will get them a pretty decent prize.
Exactly. I think that, I mean, the guys on 5.5 have to play for a win, so it's going to be interesting. Well, it'd be nice also, I mean, there's another tournament, I say, within a tournament going on. Well, there's actually 2.
Yeah.
There's the women's standings, and they've got, just have a look at their standings, because the prize fund in this is actually, again, very juicy. You've got Kotanashvili out there in the lead on 5 points, but the winner of this gets $5,000. And I think there's 5 prizes.
Yeah, so second prize, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000, etc. So, I mean, I think Kotanashvili has certainly had the most consistent tournaments. She started off very well by beating Jobava, and I think she certainly deserves to be up there.
Yeah, I mean,
but the vagaries of the Swiss system are such that, you know, if you're, well, you can see who she's playing against.
Sure.
Rachmanov, you know, has a very high rating.
And her rating performance, I think, is worth pointing out, because, I mean, her normal rating is only just about 2,500, but her rating performance here, this is Kotanashvili, has been 27.31.
Yeah.
So she's had a phenomenal tournament, really, really strong tournament. So she's well deserved to win a big prize here.
Just looking down those pairings of the women in the last round, in fact, you know, they've all got difficult opponents. Rachmanov is rated, I think, 2600 odd. Danielian is playing Berkesh, very strong and dangerous Hungarian grandmaster. Zhukova is playing Hamducci, representing France, also a very strong player. Very interesting pairing on board 4, Irina Krush against Wen Junju from China. Now Wen Junju, is actually the highest rated woman player on 2586, but that's a real test for Irina.
Yes, definitely. So we're basically a very exciting round in front of us. I mean, let's just maybe mention the top. Let's say, I think we've done most of the boards, but there's a couple of other interesting encounters today in the top that I'd just like to mention, going down to maybe board 7, 8. We won't go through them all, but we've talked about Maxime, obviously going for a win with white today, playing Efemenko. Now, board 4, we have this young Chinese player who I tipped actually to win this tournament. That's not going to happen, but Ding from China on 5.5 points is playing Adiban, and we had Adiban in the commentary room yesterday. That's going to be very interesting. 2 young players. Board 5, we have Samuel Shankland, who's also having a great tournament here, with the white pieces 5.5 against Ilyanov. That looks like the first Berlin I've seen so far, but okay, we'll come to that later on. Board 6, we have Safarli for Azerbaijan against Tomaszewski, the super solid Russian. And it's kind of been proven, I think, in some respects. We said at the start that Tomaszewski's play may be a little bit too solid. He maybe has the tendency to draw too many games to win this tournament. So that's maybe proved right there. Board 7, very interesting encounter. And this is one, again, I want to mention. We have Bu from China. Can I start that again? Bu. Okay, sorry. Try to make you jump, but okay. Bu from China. And he's on 5.5, second ever youngest grandmaster in the world, 2707. He's playing one of the heroes of this tournament, Salem, from the United Arab Emirates. And Salem is having a brilliant tournament. And another bit of news we've had, which I think is really good, Salem is playing in Awakenzi. He's just been invited in the last couple of days after his outstanding performance here. So I guess that is the B group, and so is Sam Shankland as well. So these 2 exciting players are both being invited to one of the, I say, most historical and nicest tournaments there is on the circuit, all play all. So that's great for both of these players.
Good stuff. Well, shall we plunge in and take a look at the game on board 1? So
let's do it.
We've got Yu Yangyi with the white pieces against Vladimir Kramnik with black, and Kramnik, unsurprisingly, against Yu's 1e4, has played a super solid line. He's played the Berlin, and Yu Yangyi, I think this is good news for us. Instead of going into the Berlin wall endgame, he's played d3, keeping tension in the position. Yeah,
I mean, this is what Magnus Carlsen, again, we've seen quite a lot of time encounters that we saw in the recent World Championship match, and in game 2 of the World Championship match held in Sochi recently between Magnus Carlsen and Anand. Magnus Carlsen in game 2 played d3 against Anand, and he won a very, very nice game. This is probably one of Magnus's nicest games, I'd say, from that World Championship match. But okay, I mean, it's also, Kramnik is a very obviously solid and good player. He used the Berlin, should we say, famously to defeat Garry Kasparov in the year 2000 to win the World Championship match, actually in Hammersmith, London. Do you know in 2000 what my job was there? I think you were commentating.
I was commentating.
Do you know what my job was?
I don't know, Simon.
I was showing people to their chairs. Nothing to do with chess. I was working there for the duration of the tournament, and I was literally, people would come in, I'd show them to their chairs, and then at the end of showing people to their chairs, I'd sit in the back chair and watch the chess. So how things have changed.
Indeed.
So anyway,
you've worked your way up
somehow, yeah. And anyway.
Okay, so knight d2. All right, I like this. Actually, I quite like white's setup here. I mean, it's related to other variations of the Spanish, the delayed exchange variation. I mean, this kind of pawn structure. If we just let me highlight those pawns there. There's a celebrated game between Capablanca and Janowski, which ended up in a rook endgame with exactly this pawn structure, and Capablanca managed to achieve this break f4, and he won after this exchange of pawns by advancing his kingside pawn minority, and it was a model game, an absolute model game. So whenever I think of this structure, that's what I think of. That, you know, white just has a little something here. But let's just go on. Of course, black has the two bishops in a very solid position.
I mean, Kramnik only needs a draw, doesn't he? So
yeah.
I think he'd be quite happy with the way, probably quite happy with this opening, I'd imagine. It's very solid. I mean, he's a very solid player. I mean, we saw this yesterday. He played brilliantly yesterday, didn't he, Kramnik? Just say, brilliant game.
Well, it's actually really interesting because, you know, we were looking at that game and we both thought that after a certain point that Salem had some advantage, a little advantage out of the opening. But actually, when I checked it on the computer last night, basically Kramnik was never worse according to the computer. He judged it perfectly, and he even managed to somehow create complications out of that equality. It wasn't a dry equality. It was a superb performance.
A very good game.
Okay, so it's white to play here now. How's white going to play this? I mean, normally as white here, I would want to trade off these bishops. That would be my first thought in this position.
Yes. Again, I mean, I'll be honest, this is a structure I don't have much experience with. I mean, it's kind of like the Mexican standoff here. The bishop on e3 and bishop b6. And Mexicans is a bit of a theme of the day, isn't it, so far, Danny? But we won't bring that up. Maybe we'll mention that another time. But it's like the Mexican standoff. The bishop on e3, bishop on b6. Whoever takes the bishop first makes a concession, I'd say. So if black takes on e3, you strengthen white's pawn structure. If white takes on b6, you strengthen black's pawn structure. So,
well, you know, in this kind of position that, you know, sometimes white, I know this looks a very odd move positionally, but it is possible to play this move, c4, because, you know, d4 is well covered. And, you know, if you're threatening c5, then this might induce an exchange of bishops. And, you know, you can play queen e2 or queen c2 and bring a rook to the middle. I know it's a very peculiar move, but sometimes white can actually consider that move. But first of all, you know, I'd be very happy to start with bishop e3. I don't know if we've got any more moves on the board. Not noticeably.
I guess black castles kingside here. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I'd imagine black does that. So
after bishop e3, castles king. Yeah. Okay. Now, having said, you know, sometimes c4. I'm not sure I want to play it immediately, but you know, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with this knight on b3. The move I would like to play is a4 actually.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the moment, you know, that's obviously not on because that.
Do you go knight d2? Sorry, knight on fd2. I was thinking actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Try to
and
kind of useful in some positions to.
And try and get in f4.
Your
absolutely.
Capablanca idea and some possibilities.
Absolutely,
as well.
Yeah. And also that
A4,
could set up a4. Yeah. Knight d2 I like very much.
Maybe knight c4 in some positions, not this position, but potentially.
Yeah. Let's go back to that position. I mean, bishop e3 is certainly not a forced move. How about grabbing this bishop? Could we play knight g5?
Yeah, that's a very looks like a very, very normal move as well. Knight g5, and
I suppose here, so, queen e7.
Yeah. Queen e7. And now if you take the bishop, you can go a4. I mean, I don't know how this turns out. I mean...
I guess I'll play... Well, what do I want to do? I suppose I'll play a5.
Now bishop e3 maybe?
Yeah.
And just try to go for this pawn structure, possibly. I've got to really... I don't know, is this completely crazy? I'm thinking if white can ever go c4. I think that's a completely crazy choice. It is, yeah. No.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always prefer white in these positions because... You know, it looks like if anyone's going to be the first to break, make a pawn break, then it should be white. So just play a simple move, queen d2 or queen e2, and get in f4. You know, after a move like this.
Sure. And
I quite like knight g5.
Is this the way that you'd play against the Berlin when you faced it, Danny? I mean, because
I have done, yes. I mean, I think it's a very. Let's just go back to that position.
If we compare it to the main line Berlin, it's very different to the other. What I'd say is the main line. If you know, if castle's kingside instead of d3, you get this position we're going to reach now with the queen's being exchanged, which is the main line. There's no doubt about that. But this structure is completely different, isn't it, to the structures we just looked at?
Yeah, I think one of the big problems that white has here is the pawn having advanced to e5. This means that these squares, these light squares here, are somewhat weakened, and that makes it easier for black to kind of find a foothold. And that means that although black's king has been displaced, in fact it's not in that much trouble. I mean, I would feel, I've never played the Berlin endgame with black, but I would feel very comfortable in this position with black, I have to say. I mean, it's partly to do with my strange love of the bishops, but
yeah, it's kind of been proven now as well at top level.
Black is fine.
I mean, I spoke to Nakamura about this, and he was nearly always an e4 player for most of his life. But then I spoke to him, and he said, "Well, you know what's happening at top level actually." In a lot of these tournaments, white's actually going 1c4, and this is because of the Berlin and because of that ending. And at the moment, theoretically, as we've seen in lots of high-class encounters, white can't really prove an advantage at all in this ending. And it's, you know, it is not to everyone's taste. It certainly wouldn't be to my taste. The technique that Yu has used in this game by going d3, he's trying to win. It does keep more tension in the position. So, you know, he's got everything to play for. You know, if he wins the tournament. He takes the money. He can celebrate in style. We saw there was lovely pictures at the Olympiad when the Chinese team won the gold medal. China celebrated. A lot of them were celebrating in tears. You know, a lot of the team started crying after their victory, and I thought that shows how much it meant to them, this victory. Really nice.
Yeah,
really
I mean, I was there, and they were such a pleasant team. Actually, I have to say, they were really sociable. They were really happy to be interviewed. I mean, I'm not just talking after their success, but actually they were happy to be interviewed beforehand as well. They're actually really nice guys.
Yeah.
And also their team captain was they were very relaxed actually, and it's clear they were a young team and they had such a good spirit. So, you know, I think Yu Yangyi, okay, he's just one of them, along with Ding Liren and others who are really coming through.
Certainly, and I'm hoping today, I mean, we can get one of the Chinese Olympiad team into the commentary room. I mean, obviously, if Yu wins today, I don't think all their English is, you know, some of them struggle with English, but we will do our best, hopefully.
Okay,
really nice.
We've got some more moves. Let's take a look at what's happened. So it's gone after bishop e6, white. Well, yes, we had this on the board. Knight b3, bishop b6. Now it's gone. Oh dear, we haven't. The move's just coming through, but a bit slowly. I can see they've made.
It's funny. We've got results on the live board giving it as a 1-0 to you, but I'm pretty.
This is yesterday.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's not today's results. So that'll be a bit of a quick win, a quick loss, should I say? Also, can we go to this? Okay, while we're waiting for moves here, look at Anish Giri's game. Can I just say, Anish Giri's game? This is super fireworks going on. This is the board 2. I mean, this one, a grind, board 2. What about this? Giri's tweet, he meant business today. I mean, look at this for a game. This is going crazy. Absolutely crazy. So this is the board 2 encounter between Akobian and Anish Giri. And it's a very sharp Sicilian. So.
Okay, going from the top, this is currently this particular system. Well, obviously the black is playing the Taimanov, but this system with bishop e3 is absolutely hochmode at the moment. It's high fashion. So
the great thing about this line, Danny, is that bishop e3, queen d2, f3, castles queenside. If you're trying to learn open Sicilians from the white side, you can play this setup against a number of Sicilians.
Yeah, but. Okay, this of course is the way into the English attack, and if black plays d6, then we've got the classic English attack position with f3. But this is why black's move order in delaying d6 is so clever, and this is absolutely directed against this standard English attack. And here, this is the point. This pin is actually very annoying. So yes, you can play like this, but this is not so clear.
What's this opening called? I've seen this bishop.
It's a Taimanov.
is bishop b4 the time on off? Because like,
Still time on.
this is also speciality. It seems the Svidler has played this
Yes,
bishop b4.
but I mean, this is very, very popular.
It's very popular now. So
Moments, yeah.
it's a Sicilian I don't know so well.
But I think this is a very good system from Black. Actually,
It's a very aggressive system.
No, but it's a really good answer against your white standard English attack with bishop e3. So it just shows this is not a kind of universal system. You can't play it against everything. I mean, of course, this is playable for white. But what I'm saying is that Black currently has pretty good results with this system, and it can develop into very positional lines. Black, again, having delayed playing the pawn to d6, can often break with d5 and get something on c3. So this is how things have developed. The bishop has popped back. Okay.
Looks like a very standard Sicilian position to me. Actually, like a Naidov. Like
Knight f3.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is.
Do we have more moves?
This is why I wanted to jump to this position. Knight takes f3.
Well, okay. The proof of the pudding
Fireworks.
is in the eating. So let's hack it off and see what's happened. So, well,
Bishop takes, I think. Just
bishop
take the rook.
takes.
Yeah.
Just take the rook. Just take the rook. Okay. Now where do I want the queen? Let me put it on g3 for the time being and see what happens.
Let's be materialistic. Let's just take that one. So
Why not?
if there's a reason, then we should take.
So let's just take a tally. White is the exchange down.
It's interesting because you've got g5 or bishop g2. I mean, or some bishop move even. I mean, I quite like g5 here. Try g5.
Yeah, I was just wondering what happens on knight e4.
Now something clever with the queen, even queen g1. But then your bishop might.
Bishop
wriggle its
bounces
way
back
around.
to f3.
Was there a better square? Sorry, that was a bit rushed. Bishop queen g1, I think. Well, we have queen e3 as well, maybe. I don't know. But then
I'm tempted to take another.
Oh, you just take. Sorry, I'm still waking up. My breakfast is a little bit too large, probably. Okay, but I mean, this is.
It's a really interesting position.
Even this is, yeah. It is
No,
because
I mean,
it's certainly
g5 is critical. I mean,
very towel-like,
the knight on e4 is a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
odd square because it does block the bishop's retreat. But
even queen e1.
Yeah.
Just keeping an eye because I've got bishop d3 as a threat now, attacking two pieces.
you see, I'm wondering if I can just whip this pawn off. I know this looks
Sure,
unbelievably risky, but
it does. I seem to, but you've got
take-
a lot of pawns to protect yourself.
take
There.
on g7. I mean, this is
Yeah.
it's hossing up nicely.
Certainly is a very tactical position. This one.
Maybe back. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is completely crazy, but
is, yeah,
we've
yeah.
dived in here.
Dived in with deep
let's
ends, I mean,
let's go back here.
Yeah.
Well, there are other options here. Hang on, what happens if I just take on f6?
Yeah.
Then all well and good.
And I mean, White needs a big hit in this position. And you know what? I don't think White has a big hit. This knight on a4 is very often a very bad piece in the Sicilian, and it can often be hit by a tactic like bishop c6. This theme of playing bishop c6 once you advance from b4 is really worth remembering in these open Sicilian positions.
Let's go back. That's the position on the board. So I think we're beginning to sort of understand Black's
Gary's idea.
big ideas here. Yes, so at the moment, knight b6s are possible, and they're supported by the bishop. But that's the tactical justification
Yes.
of this move.
And you know what? I think Giri has. Do you start with an hour and a half? Because he's 5 minutes up on the clock. If you start, I mean, I think Giri is moving so quickly.
Giri is very well prepared.
Very well played.
I'm
You have to in this variation, don't you?
I'm sure this will be prep.
Can we try queen takes f3 again? Because I just want to see after bishop takes e4. Okay, there was another suggestion coming in, but let's just have a look, see if there's any way we can generate compensation here.
Okay, well, shall we think of a better square for the queen, perhaps?
certainly. So, some good square for the queen.
What about queen h3?
Yeah.
Let's try this. And now g5, because now after, well, I mean,
Yeah, g6 even. Whew.
well, a couple of things. I mean, I don't think this is e4 is the best square, but
Well, g6 is very interesting there as well. Or bishop takes g7.
well, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I just want to take here,
Yeah.
and I think that's very good. But okay, I think let's just go
Yeah,
back
sure.
to queen. queen here and have a little think. So here and g5. And
See these
now-
positions. Even though black is material up, his king's still in the centre, and is that a Mexican?
We're being chucked.
Sorry.
Tea bags are being chucked at us,
So
which is good
we are-
news.
Yeah, tea
all
bags
all
for-
good
for
news.
us. We need our cup of tea in the morning. Definitely.
Yeah. Morning tea.
Morning
Here
tea,
we go.
Time out. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. It's.
Yeah. It's nearly time for
I
our.
was going to say it's tea time in
It's tea
England. It's
time.
not really, but frankly, it's always tea time in
time.
England. Yeah, it's good
There's always
news.
time out for a cup of tea.
Yeah, lovely cuppa.
Green tea as well.
I love a bit of green
Yeah,
tea.
I don't mind
Yeah.
it actually. I quite like green tea.
No, green tea, very refreshing.
I was telling you about the green tea I've got at home. It's
Oh yeah,
it comes in a big ball of green, and it looks very dubious material, but it
Sounds
tastes
good
very
to me.
nice. It's very good. Okay, well G5 here. Yeah, this kind of sacrifice is because the white's pieces are quite developed, so you can gain time by hitting the bishop on H1. I mean, it's quite dangerous.
can I go back
Certainly
to this position? I'm wondering, what about knight takes E4? Is that an option? I mean, obviously threatening
Yeah.
a big discovered. I'm just wondering if there's,
Let's move the queen somewhere,
Yeah,
like E3 or at H3 again. Yeah.
I don't know, H3
One
then
big
knight
square.
G5. But okay, let's play this one. Is this just rubbish? Maybe it's just rubbish.
If I get bishop G2 in, I don't think you've got any good knight jumps here. So
I think it's rubbish, isn't it? Okay, let's go back to
Yeah, I think
bishop
so.
E4.
So let's try this queen H3.
But this queen H3 is a bit funny.
I mean, because the point is, if you let's say
Go
you
on.
try bishop takes H1, G5, and we saw a problem with knight 2. Well, it's the same wherever the knight goes. I mean, you've got always two interesting options. I mean, I don't know where else the knight can go. It's not a good. There's no good squares. The knight can. You can't go bishop C6 here. I wouldn't imagine. I mean,
Still got knight B6. in
still
that
got knight
case.
B6.
That looks
yeah.
very funny. I'm quite confused about this.
And where else does the knight
Ah,
go?
no, wait a second. I wonder, can I a little thought going way back here? So that's the position on the board, and we've been taking this. Now I wonder, before he takes on E4, is he going to flick in E5?
Maybe.
Is that his idea? And then go for this,
So
because
you've got G7.
obviously in this case there's no big hit on G7. But this is incredibly sharp. Even if I played something like,
Or G5. I mean,
well, I think I want to cover E4. Even something like this is not out of the question, because if I get my knight to F5 very quickly, and I've still got G5, I don't know. Positionally, maybe this is just rough. I'm not sure. If I plonk the knight on E5, maybe this is just good for black.
well, I mean, knight. Yeah, maybe. Very sharp position.
Knight F5.
Well, it's great to have such an exciting game like this. on
Knight
board
here.
too, clearly.
Queen E3, let's say. G6, it's probably, I don't know, once the knight anchors itself on E5, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable, but it's still tricky because the queen's kind of a bit sidelined.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I mean, this knight on E5, again, is such a common theme in the Sicilian. You see the knight anchoring itself on that square in so many variations, especially when white's pushes F pawn up the board. And that's a great square for your knight.
shall we just go back to see Vlad?
Yeah, okay, let's see what's going on in board one.
Because we were waiting for sort of moves to update there.
Very interesting, though, should I say? Akobian versus Giri. Extremely fascinating
Okay.
game, that one.
We left the game around here. He did play knight G5.
He did play
Interesting.
knight G5.
And Vlad whipped off on B3. Okay, that's a more sensible choice. And as is so often the case in this position, the knight
Yeah.
finds its way round to E6, this wonderful square. So Vlad makes the concession, trades off this bishop, but it does buy him some time, and the knight comes to this glorious square. A couple more moves,
Very
check,
solid opening.
and queen G1.
In the old days, it used to be considered that the older you were at chess, the more experienced and kind of better you were. This is certainly the public's perception of chess. And if you think about these guys, Yu is 20 years old, Kramnik nearly 40, and they're playing what can only be described a very slow game. And surely, Danny, I mean, Kramnik must have played this since he was a baby, this kind of system. He's played the Berlin for a long time, at least the last 14 years. He must have great experience in this position compared to, I mean, you is a baby, so he can't have great experience, surely.
I mean, there are games I can think of in exactly this type of position. One, for example, against Luke McShane that Kramnik played in the London Chess Classic, where Kramnik, also got this knight to e6, exactly this pawn structure, and Luke somehow managed to ram his f-pawn up the board, and all hell broke loose. Yeah.
Freddie came straight up him, did it?
It did actually, as they say, but Vlad survived and won. I mean, it was an incredibly sharp game.
I remember the game, actually, yeah.
It was a brilliant game.
It was a very good game from both players.
This is, positionally, this is just a rock. I mean, this is such a great piece.
It's just such a solid position for Black. I mean, I think it's going to be very hard for you to win this kind of position against someone like Kramnik, who has this brilliant, brilliant understanding. We can see, obviously, a lot of people around this board looking at the board, watching the game. No surprise there. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised it's not kind of cordoned off, but okay, it looks.
Well, this is the hurly-burly of a Swiss Open tournament.
Kramnik's not used to it, maybe.
Well,
but he's coping with it well.
He seems to be coping so far.
He seems to be doing all right. So,
I think we could easily get a decisive result in this game if Yang Yi goes for it. But here, okay, Vlad's having a little think. I mean, the obvious move is just to castle. But I wonder if he's maybe mulling over a little queenside action. Maybe.
Yeah.
A little bit of Queen D7 and. Yeah. Don't know. I mean, this knight's coming to see.
Can you also explain? I mean, on move 13, you played Queen H5 check and then Queen to D1, which seemingly loses a couple of tempo. Can you explain the point of this Queen sortie that White did? So White goes Queen H5 check, Black plays G6, and he moves his Queen back. So obviously White is thinking, right, I've made Black play the move G6, and this has helped me somehow. So. How has G6 helped White strategically here?
Well, it's about these squares, so that H6 is now potentially available for a bishop, but also the F6 square has been slightly weakened. So after White gets in, let's say, knight C4, and probably at some moment hacks off this bishop, then, well, probably after a King H1 as well, F4 comes. And in that case, Black would much rather have the pawn on G7 support pawn on F6. Still not that serious for Black, but I think strategically it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's very subtle, but it's just, I think a slight weakening, and it does help White. What I love about White's structure is that there are no weaknesses in White's position at all. I love playing this kind of position, I have to say, because it seems to me that White is sort of the only one that can possibly get some kind of advantage here. I'll tell you how I used to get this structure, and that's from this opening. So more mainline Spanish. So here, castles, and now rook e1 and b5 and d6 or castles is the Spanish main line. But after bishop e7, you can play bishop takes c6. And this was, well, a very respectable line in the 1970s and 1980s, the delayed exchange. And then you play d3.
I think they're both having their tea break as well here, we can see. They realise it's tea time. They're having their cup of tea, Danny.
That's very sound.
I would also like to mention that we...
So, sorry, just very quickly, let me finish on this position. Yeah. So you can see that this structure is exactly the same, and you play like this. I beg your pardon. I managed to play the king to f8. So it's exactly the same structure. And here you can play with b3 and bishop b2, or quite slowly. But another way to play is simply with knight f5, and sometimes with queen f3 and knight f5, or maybe just going for f4 immediately. I really used to enjoy playing like this, and it's very respectable for White.
Yeah, definitely.
Very similar. So, I must say I'm a fan of White's position, because, it's very hard for Black to sort of get serious counterplay against it.
Sure. I mean, I'd just like to say as well, I mean, a really nice touch of this tournament was that every single player in this tournament, and even the commentators, which is great, so
Thank you very much.
gets a present, and this is from one of the main sponsors,
Abdul Ghani and Brothers.
and they're one of the main sponsors of this tournament, and I think they're an insurance company over here in Qatar.
No, they're a car dealership.
Car dealership,
Yeah.
I got that right, didn't I? So sorry about that.
But there's another sponsor, which is the Qatar Insurance Group.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so, but the present's really, really cool. It's actually a solar charger for your iPad or iPhone. So if we get stuck in the desert later on, you know, maybe on one of our tours, and we need to phone for help, luckily we have this lovely gift. Probably not going to work very well in England at this time of year, but if we do go to the Qatar desert, it would work perfectly. So so it's a very, very nice present. Every single player gets this nice little gift. Just one of the nice little touches of this tournament. I think that's lovely anyway. So great, yeah.
Okay, very good. Any more moves? We have, interesting actually, very nice. Well, this is all subtle stuff. After it's gone bishop c5.
Is that coming to g7?
Well, that is my thought.
Wow.
So Vlad, I think, might be doing a bit of a reroute to g7. Nice touch. I should say that's the position on the board.
That's quite an interesting idea. I like that idea a lot because, you know, White's forced Black to play the move g6. And as you mentioned later on, I think it's quite similar to the Luke McShane game in the same system. White might try to break with f4. You know, if White wants to win this game, he's got to probably play a pawn break. So the move f4 at some point later on is the way that White might try to break. When he does break with f4, Black's kingside could become a target. So Black's idea could well be to bring his bishop all the way around to g7, giving the Black king extra protection on the king side, and also at some point maybe this bishop can open up on the long diagonal. So that's a clever idea, I guess.
I like it. So, okay, we're still awaiting moves on board 2 of Kopi and Giri, a lot to calculate. Let's go to Maxim Vachilikov against Zahar Yefimenko on board 3. Let's just cut over there. If I can find that one. Yep, there's Maxim having a little bit of a think.
So Maxim needs to win this game, doesn't he, Danny? I think it's fair to say to get a decent prize, because he's half a point behind Afomenko, and you know, a draw for Afomenko, he gets a nice juicy prize. I think most of these players here in this big score group are aiming, you know, if you get 6.5 points, you pick up a nice paycheck. So if you look at the score group, you can see Pontus Karlsson from Sweden, who played an amazing game in round 2 or 3, probably round 3, watching the games there. And this is the typical English position, Danny. This is, you know, this system that Black played here is one of the reasons I gave up playing the English.
Really? That bad?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's bad. I mean, it's basically a reverse Sicilian. It's the reverse Sicilian dragon. The thing is, I then started playing the Sicilian dragon, so it's kind of strange, but I never enjoyed playing this system with White. You know why that is? It's come back to that principle I said earlier. When I'm playing with White, I like to have more space than my opponents. And I'm playing this position with White and I'm giving away a space advantage. But of course, there's been some amazing games, Karbov, Korchnoi, other greats winning this position with White. It's basically a reversed Sicilian dragon, where Black doesn't have the kingside attack in play. But I personally don't like giving away space at the start of the game. Personal preference. One of the reasons I gave up the English. But
okay, well, let's have a look at this exact position. So, I'm not quite sure why Maxim is having a think here. It looks at first glance. Oh, here we go.
He's getting ready to move.
Hang on.
We can see Sargsyan there.
He's hovering.
On the left-hand side, and Mamajarov
I mean,
behind.
I would assume that we simply have to recapture with the bishop. I can't. I mean, you could play pawn takes, but it looks odd, doesn't it?
Is he worried that after bishop takes knight d4, that it's going to be opposite colour bishops or something like this?
Okay, well, let's take a look. So knight d4. Well, yeah. I mean, I think White is still better in these kind of positions. If I just hack that off.
I guess I have to go pawn takes, yeah.
And
oh, yeah, be careful, not rook c4. That's my mistake.
I guess we could play rook b3 here. Okay, this starts to get very messy, but I would, because White's rook is slightly oddly placed.
Yeah.
But
strange position.
I would think this must be better for White. There's so much pressure
Yeah, I
already.
like white. Yeah, I mean,
So,
you know,
I
but
d-
he has. What's he taken with? Let's just see. He's taken with the bishop, so that's
Yeah.
very understandable. I think Afimenko is, you know, he's simply. Afimenko is really like, you know, thinking draw. You know, go home with money, pay the rent, draw. And he's having a great tournament, Afimenko, and he's trying to. And he knows he's playing Maxime, so he's trying to liquidate into.
We've got this position on the
opposite
board.
kind of bishop thing where he thinks he can hold a draw. Where he might be slightly worse, but he's just trying to draw this. I
Okay,
feel.
this is a big decision actually for white, because
It is, yeah.
if the rook goes back to c2, then black can shut down the queen side with c6, and in this case I would say black has very good equalising chances,
Bishop
drawing
F6,
chances.
yeah, and you just sit there, maybe something like this.
But it's this move, rook b3, is critical because you can see that the pawn on b7 is under fire. So in order to hold that pawn, black has to weaken his position with I think b5 is forced here.
B5 looks critical. I'm just wondering if there's some weird position where Queen A5 is a good move. I mean, I'd love to try to keep this rook track. Can I go? Okay, I'm going to try this. Can I try C5?
Yeah.
I'm just. If you ever go A4, I go B4. I want to just sack the exchange, play against this strange rook on B3.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I mean.
Oh, in fact,
it might not be good, but it's
no, but in fact,
yeah.
you don't lose a rook. Here's the point.
Yeah, I just take with it. I take
with the A
rook. I
rook.
was even thinking if I take the F rook, it might be okay. But this position,
Okay, just for the sake of illustration, have a look at this. So
B4,
suddenly
goodbye,
that
goodbye
rook,
on B3.
that's incredible. Okay,
Yes.
so this is the reason. Yeah.
That's a clever idea.
So I think he does
so.
have to come back. And I mean, I would say white is still slightly better here, but this is very hard work. I think, you know, what you do is you plough on with the minority attack. So the queen drops back to b3 and you play a4 and b5. Maxime is still slightly better here, but I would say it's odds on a draw.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear black is going for a draw and slightly better. Going to be a long game, but okay, at the moment it looks like black's playing a very solid strategy.
Let's switch to board 4. Dingliren against Ariban.
These guys are both incredibly well prepared, aren't they? It seems to me very well prepared in this position. So I mean, their theory seems to be incredible. So I'm hoping for a sort of very sharp game here. And this is a very interesting opening. I mean, I play this myself as white. Just going to borrow the mouse there, if that's all right. And this is so cool. Well, there's so many martial gambits in the world. I mean, I kind of lose count of the number of martial gambits, but c6 is an incredibly sharp move. Both of these guys young, very well prepared. Now, you can play the move knight to f3 here, which enters into a different kind of position. Actually, even the move e3 is quite interesting when it was thought black could play f5, getting a good stonewall Dutch, but g4 is a very interesting move. But the most critical move here is e4, and I've had some really fun games for the white pieces here. The point being, the main line is, well, d takes e4 is forced, bishop to b4 check, and now here Ding played a move that Magnus Carlsen actually played in the first World Championship match against Vishy Wananet, knight to c3. The main line and the very theoretical line, the move I've played, is this so-called Marshall Gambit, yet another one with bishop d2. And the point is, what black now grabs on d4, you take on b4, takes on e4, bishop e2. Black is a pawn up, but look at the dark squares. I mean, you have all these dark squares, a queen maybe coming into d6, the black king is living on the edge. But again, with computers, Danny, black has found great ways to defend this position. Black can defend this position in a number of ways with computer analysis. So this knight to c3 move was made popular by Carlsen, and he beat Anand in the first match.
Well, he did, but
I
I tell you what, I didn't think Anand's play in that game, his play in the opening, was terribly impressive, and you know, I thought, you know, black should be absolutely fine. So let's just zip through and see what's happened.
So we're going for a very h3 is very intriguing. I'll stop knight g4. Okay, so again, it's just going to be a long strategical game here.
Well, let's see.
Where am I?
Normally, I'm a big fan of these kind of positions with the black pieces, where you have the structure 4 on the king side and 2 on the queen side.
You like this in black?
I like the centre pawn, but here, what concerns me is that white can play either g3 or g4 and bring this bishop to the long diagonal very quickly. And white could simply have an advantage in development here. I mean, you can see that at the moment black's bishops are, well, they're blocking the first rank. So black has a problem with development here. Well, all these pieces, in fact. Whereas white's pieces can come out relatively quickly. Castles is happening very quickly. And as I said, g3 and bishop g2 or g4, one of these moves. So
what about, okay, so
I'm not sure.
I'd like to stop you going, or not stop you, but try to preempt
b6,
g3.
yeah?
Either b6 or bishop d7 to c6, but b6 looks the most logical, doesn't
Looks
it?
normal.
So,
Okay.
So,
well, let me see about this.
Can you punish me for this?
Yeah, I'm also looking at the d6 square, of course, if I can bring a knight in there.
Yeah.
So
the idea of b6, just for those wondering, is white's plan is to go g3 or g4, bishop g2, but I want to preempt this. If you play your g3, g4, I go bishop b7, get on the diagonal first.
yeah. Okay, well, let me castle. So bishop b7, I guess.
It does seem slightly nicer for white to play with the pieces, I think, don't you?
Well, I'm wondering if I can play knight b5 here.
Yeah.
Just
Coming into this d6 hole.
exactly. Just to
Yeah.
get the knight into b6.
I think it just seems nicer for white. A bit more pleasant to play.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
slightly more pleasant.
it's basically to do with development. I feel if black manages to develop, then I like his structure actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of touch and go at the moment.
Yes.
So that's an interesting position. Well, Adiban has played after castles. He's
sorry.
played e5. Well, that's an interesting choice. So the bishop is going to come out this way. That's one of these squares. Okay, well that seems reasonable to me. So that's quite straightforward. Just another way of playing. Okay, Simon, you were oohing and
I was
ahhing.
just getting excited. Sorry, I mean I didn't mean to interrupt there, but sometimes I just get a little bit too excited. And on Geary's board, Kobian versus Geary,
Okay.
it's gone exactly as he didn't go e5. He was worried about something. It's gone queen h3. There's g5 line. So this is absolutely fascinating position. Really fascinating.
I mean, at our sort of very cursory glance, this
Very dangerous.
could be fun for white. I wonder why he didn't go e5 there.
In this position,
Is there a reason? There must be a good reason,
I imagine so.
and we haven't found it yet.
I mean, I was thinking about if I could get g5 to work and make you take on e4, but you've got much improved version to what you had before with black. If you take the the knight, I don't know if there's any strange tactical sequences then. With queenie. No, I can't. Maybe I don't know. Again, this is the kind of position you'd like to have prepared with your computer previously to the game. No doubt about that. Okay, well, you can try g5. Can we just maybe have a look at g5 here, just quickly? And if knight takes e4, then I have to move my queen. I'd probably go queen e2 even, and try to play something strange like this. But I'm just trying to hope the e-file, and maybe rook takes, or bishop g2.
Bishop g2
Bishop G2,
looks like
bishop
it could be
G2.
fun.
And I'm hoping I'm going to get some fun on the e-file here. And if you go d5, I go maybe just knight takes d4, or I don't know if I've got a better move there. It's potentially I do, knight b6,
Knight
takes
b6 and knight
d5.
d5.
But this looks also quite fun for white, maybe some variation like this. So it's a very complex position.
Who knows?
So who knows? Yeah. So
But clearly, well, Geary has gone into this very, very quickly.
it's not going to be I mean, this is a sharp encounter.
If we just check out the clock times, Geary has an hour and 31 minutes on the clock. Now, he started with an hour and 30, so he's basically gained time, and Akopian has only 49 minutes remaining.
I mean, as we said, Daddy, there's two ideas here, isn't there? I mean, if the knight moves, I'm not saying the knight has to move, but if the knight does move somewhere, I mean, let's just, I don't know, say b7. you can either take on G7, and which is the strongest move, I think. Rook here, take on H7, and this just looks good. But there's also another idea in some positions that black has to keep an eye out for, and that's just a weird little G6 move, which often comes in these Sicilian positions to force a way through to E6 or something like this. So both of these ideas are present in this position. After G5, it's the black king. I mean, this is just the main problem, isn't it? The black king is problem numero one in this position. Where does the black king go? If it stays on E8, you're playing a rook down.
Okay, let me try something here,
Yeah.
because first I think after G6, I think black can cope with that by playing bishop F6, and I don't think there's too much damage done. I mean, I'm more worried about bishop G7 and here, because we're just grabbing material back. But here's a little idea. What about taking on G7 and then playing the bishop back to C6? Yeah. So having got rid of the dark square bishop,
I mean, I want to play G6
then
here.
okay, so G6, fine, and okay, all hell is breaking loose. I mean, this looks like great fun.
Complex, yeah.
So takes.
Even bishop D3 strings to mind of sacking a piece somehow, but maybe there's.
Or we could check and just take on E6. Also
even
possible.
Knight C5 in these positions is very interesting, trying to open up the D file. This kind of typical idea. I actually
check first, and here, and okay, which way are you going to do it? There's also Knight D4 to take on E6.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
In fact, you can do that straight away. I think that's actually winning, isn't it?
It is, because you've got
takes,
Queen E8.
takes, Queen E8.
We do have a tweet on this position as well that's just come through, so let's just see his tweet. This is from Mr. Thomas Rendell, and Thomas Rendell is great. Well, hi Tom.
Hi,
great
Tom.
to have you joining us here in the commentary. Meanwhile, Giri is aiming to bounce back after 2 losses, and it seems he caught Giri in some nasty prep.
Well, let's see. The thing is, okay, he's played all these moves very, very quickly, but suddenly after G5, he's gone into the tank, and this does not look like an easy one to defend.
No, no, certainly not. I mean,
I hope he's prepped this, because if he hasn't, he could be in serious trouble.
I mean, this is the kind of position, Danny, you'd see play a lot in the old days. Macau Tao was just more famous, these type of positions as white. And generally, I've always found this type of position much more fun to play with the white pieces than the black pieces. You just throw your pieces at your opponent's king, and you have to defend.
Look at Giri there. What's he up to? He's doing a bit of piece twiddling.
Yeah.
We've got Jansaya Abdul Malik, very strong player from Kazakhstan. She's watching, wondering what on earth is going on.
Yeah.
And the arbiter, Mr. Nikolaidis from Greece.
I mean, it's dangerous, Danny. This position is very dangerous for. Okay, I mean, I think Knight D7 is too passive here. Can we try to? I mean, I don't want to lose my knight. I mean, I'm just thinking, can black sack this knight? I mean, the problem is if you try to move bishop C6 immediately. Well, let's say I take the knight immediately. First of all, makes sense. You take the G pawn.
Knight B6.
And now knight B6 is the problem, and I don't lose my knight. I mean,
isn't this just good for white?
This position to me looks like it should be good for white. I mean, Rook A7, you could try to play on, but
Knight C4. Let's keep going, because suddenly I've even got ideas of taking on F6 sometimes. But white looks so active here. I know black has lots of pawns, of course.
I love these type of positions of white. And okay, black has what, 3 pawns though.
3 pawns.
Okay,
true.
this rook is attacked. Where does the rook move? Something like rook C. I don't know. I don't trust that, because you have so many sacrifices in the type of position like rook C7, as you pointed out, Danny. I mean,
there's Knight D6 here. Actually, Knight D6 might be killing, because takes and then bishop F6. I think it's
bishop F6, and you hit the rook and you hit the bishop.
Actually, that's winning straight away, isn't it?
There's a lot of danger here. No wonder Giri's. I mean, if Giri might have prepared this, but it's a position where the computer's assessment. People at home might look at the computer's assessment. We don't use the computer here. And I think, it's +1, something like that for black. But then all of a sudden you realise that basically white has this ongoing compensation, and you have to play. If you're a human, playing computer defensive moves for the whole time is incredibly difficult. So I don't know. I mean, I think this is a dangerous position for Giri.
We're going to find out soon. Let's switch to board 5. Sam Shankland against Pavel Ulyanov. Let me just fish that game up. And Simon, you'll be delighted to see it is a Berlin. And
Right, let's move on to board number 6. Okay, we should look at this. Okay. We have to have at least one proper Berlin in this tournament. Or it's not a proper
they've
chess
been
tournament.
rare.
So
They've been actually quite rare.
it's the first one. Yeah, it's the first one. So definitely.
Okay, we won't spend too long looking at this, but it's absolutely typical. But it wouldn't surprise me if Sam has prepared this very well with white. He likes to do his homework. And okay, all we can say is white is slightly better. He has achieved something in exchanging these dark square bishops, but Elyanov is super technical, so I guess both sides will be happy.
Just pointing out, we've just been told a little bit of technical information that yesterday, if you're looking in the live games page, I think on the official site, you might see yesterday's results being shown. So they're not today's results, they're yesterday's results, and just a slight little last day hiccup that I'm sure will be changed soon. So don't get confused, none of the games are over yet.
Let's cut and have a look at the games of the top women players. So
Danny, I'm so happy you moved on so quickly there.
yeah, I'm not going to go into that.
That's so good. I mean, because I got so bored looking at that all the time in the World Champs. I mean, oh dear, we should have. Do you think that Berlin should be banned in some tournaments?
No.
No, okay, you can't, can you? You can't ban.
No, and the reason is, I mean, the World Championships is a very good example.
Yeah.
Those games with the Berlin were very complex.
They were, yeah.
And okay, if people don't understand them, well,
That's me.
I'm sorry.
By
Of course
me.
you understand them, but
Well, a little
it's-
bit. I don't understand as much as I should.
No,
you
it's
know?
a different kind of chess, and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
in fact,
yeah.
those games are incredibly complex. As Kasparov himself said, who suffered at the hands of the Berlin,
Yeah.
he said, "This is not an end game. This is simply a queenless middle game." And
They're very complex, actually, aren't they?
They
You're
are.
right. You get very complex positions in these Berlin. So
this is the game between Alexander Rachmanov against Bela Khotanashvili, who currently is a half-point ahead of the other women. They're contesting the $5,000 top prize for the
So-
top women player.
I think I'm right in saying if Khotanashvili with the black pieces today draws or wins, she's guaranteed the first prize in the ladies section. So it's a big game for her.
Well, this looks like it's transposed directly to a French.
It has France French,
but-
it's totally fine for black.
Absolutely. I mean, I play this also with black, and this is one of the variations that
Yeah,
actually I love playing against because black is so active here.
yeah. It's slightly odd to put the knight on c6, I think, but you normally put your knight on d7 to come to b6. If you can see, I'll just very
please.
quickly. But maybe you see this knight on c6, black has developed to this square. When I've played this system with black, I normally put my knight here so I can come to b6 and I can come to tack c4 and come to d5, something like that. So that's a normal way of playing, I think, there, some kind of move like that. So it's a normal square for the knight on d7. So knight c6, is that normal, Danny, that move?
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's.
okay.
I
Normal
think
idea.
it's
Attacking
pretty
d4, I
standard.
guess, yeah? So
Let's have a look. Well, I guess white has done this. I should say Rachmanov is rated 2636, so that's, you know, much higher rating than Khotanashvili, who's 2504. I guess he wanted to play something non-theoretical and just play a position. I suppose both sides can be reasonably happy. I mean, I quite like white's bishop here.
yeah.
It's on a very tasty diagonal. Yeah, I would prefer to play white. I think the black could have done a bit better in this opening somehow, actually. Because this line, just going back, because this is basically, well,
It's an advanced French.
it's a French exchange variation.
Sorry, a French exchange. Yeah.
And
You know, bishop e7 is always a move I quite prefer as well. Just keep it solid and play
I
against
think
your isolate pawn.
I think this is
fine
I
as
think
well.
this is okay.
Yeah.
But somehow around here, I think.
I mean, I just like putting the knight on d7 against the isolated pawn. It's just my preferred square for the knight. I kind of feel the knight should be
Well,
that
I think if
square.
you're playing with bishop b4, I think this is okay. But somehow
right, okay.
around here, I wonder if there's
Should you go bishop
something a
G4
bit
here?
better. Well, exactly.
I mean,
That's the
put
kind of
bishop
thing
on G6 maybe.
I'm wondering about.
You know, and if, I mean, okay, F3, put the bishop on G6.
Yeah.
Exchange off stuff. So
I think I would prefer something like that.
yeah.
Because just for a moment, you know, this diagonal is open and there's a bit of pressure here.
Yeah.
And I think tactically, it's going to be very difficult for white to sort of exploit the slight slowness of this plan. But, you know, that's what we would like to do with black, trade off
Also,
those bishops.
I mean, you're going to get this typical position, aren't you, at some point, as we see in the game, where, you know, black does, or, you know, somehow, let's say this exchange here, or black exchanges on c4, and this is a typical isolated pawn position where white has this isolated pawn on d4. Now, a couple of basic rules when you're playing against the isolated pawn: generally piece exchanges help you, because when you have the isolated pawn, as white does, it's normally a good base to start an attack on, and you know, you want to try to get your pieces hopping into nice squares. So the concept of going bishop g4, bishop h5, bishop g6, swapping off white's very strong bishop on d3, it seems like a very sensible and good way to play against the isolated pawn. Swapping pieces off, getting rid of a white attacker with the white pieces. So that's another way to play. I mean, do you think this has gone slightly wrong then in this position? Let's have a look for black. I mean, rook e8, queen d2. White's coordinated very well here.
I would feel comfortable with white, just because I do like that diagonal for the bishop. Let's just get that off the board. So let's think. But it can't be that bad for black, can it? Queen d7, something solid.
d7 and just play some moves.
It's okay for black. I think just black shouldn't panic here somehow.
Yeah. It's a long game, isn't it? I mean,
how about bishop h6? Speaking of panic.
Oh, hello. Okay. You're going to make me panic.
Just for fun. I don't think it's very good, but anyway. But my one little trick is that this is not possible.
Yeah. I've always struggled in these isolated pawn positions. I don't really understand them, I'll be honest, as well as I should do. I mean, do you prefer playing with the isolated pawn or against the isolated pawn?
Well, I actually play both sides.
Both sides,
I don't have a kind of, you know, some kind of principled objection with playing with the isolated pawn, but I've often played. I'm going to go right back to the start and do a quick compare and contrast. One of my favourite systems against the extremely annoying 2c3.
I hate this system. Sorry, I just had to say it. I
Fair
hate
enough.
playing against c3.
But one of the systems I really like to play with black is to play with e6, which isn't that popular. I mean, obviously d5 and knight f6 are the main moves, and then to play like this. Well, one thing is you've got to be happy with an advanced French, but I think we're both happy playing against the advanced French. But here, I really like playing this position with black because you often get this isolated queen pawn.
I think I'm right in saying that there was a game Bereyev versus Kasparov. Kasparov had the black pieces against a very strong Soviet, player from the Soviet Union, Bereyev, and it was a very famous game. This exact position here where Kasparov played e6 against the c3 Sicilian, and after the game, I think Kasparov even said, he basically said, well, e6 is just a great way to equalise immediately against the c3 Sicilian.
Well, I think it is. But actually, the person that kind of turned me on to this system with black was actually Korchnoi. He was a great exponent of this system, and it usually arises out of the Tarrasch variation of the French. And the candidates match in Moscow 1974, Karpov against Korchnoi, they tested this opening many times. And if you're interested in learning...
I'll make some notes of that, actually, because I want to find some... I'm not joking, against the C3 Sicilian, I've struggled.
Well, if you're interested in learning...
Yeah, I do, yeah.
This opening, then I would recommend Karpov-Korchnoi match, which was actually the candidates' final, but it turned into a World Championship match, because, of course, after Karpov won that, Fischer didn't defend his title.
Wow. Okay.
And Korchnoi used exactly this system.
Karpov get the better of him then? Because he won the match, but...
Yeah, but Karpov struggled against this opening. And also, Korchnoi played it in their match in Baguio in 1978. And again, Korchnoi did extremely well with this.
Right.
But Korchnoi, total master...
of this position.
With black.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And we should move on.
Sure.
Sorry, we're majoring on that a bit too much.
I know we should move on. I just want to mention So I know this is digressing a little bit, but from my knowledge as well, Korchnoi, this would also help me after the worrying knight d2 line. Most people for a dynamic game used to play knight f6, but Korchnoi used to play c5.
Yeah.
And again here, at some point, you get this kind of pawn structure with black. Not immediately. This is a similar pawn structure.
Well,
what you commented on, Korchnoi was also an expert in this structure as well.
This is how they.
Yeah,
this is exactly how.
Structure,
this is exactly how.
Yeah.
Their games went.
It's very similar. Very similar.
Yeah, their games went. No, I mean this was exact line.
Exact line.
Because this is
pawns on c2, but it goes to c3 now, doesn't it?
No. Well, basically there's a choice, but sometimes it goes.
Okay, yeah.
That's why the c3 version is actually inaccurate for white, and black can equalise very easily because here there are more dangerous lines. Because you don't actually have to play the pawn to c3 so quickly. But okay, that's another story. But again, Korchnoi, the absolute master of these positions.
Okay. Well,
we should move on.
Yeah,
now, where we're going to cut to? How about board one? Let's go back to. Oh no, sorry. I want to look at one other. I want to look at Danielian's game, if you don't mind. So basically, she's only half a point behind Khotanashvili. Let's go there. So Danielian, I think, was playing with white, and she's playing against Ferenc Berkes, a very dangerous Hungarian grandmaster, and okay, it's a Grunfeld.
Just have to wait until these moves come up, I think. So
sorry.
So half a point behind Khotanashvili. So good chance to well, if she wins, but this is a very tough pairing for her. Outrated seriously here.
Okay, so this is a very theoretical line.
Yeah.
And this, well, speaking of Karpov, this is Karpov against Kasparov from their 1986 match, I believe. That's the first time it was played, this system with white and black. And it is a very tense position, but I'm sure that Berkes knows these positions well, but having looked at the clock times, actually, he's got 1 hour and 3 minutes on the clock, and Danielian 58 minutes. Now, whose turn is it? White play.
So black has slightly more space here.
So if I play rook,
must be kind of theoretical kind of.
I think it is.
Yeah,
I guess rook d1.
Rook d1, maybe rook d8 or something. I mean, looks very natural. Plonk the knight on rook on d8. Just to let you know, the bug we had with the results on the live board seems to be fixed now, so there won't be any results showing at the moment, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's a little bit awkward. The knight's simply under fire. I'm not quite sure what the big idea is for white. I mean, if it goes back to c3, then I'd say black has no difficulties at all.
Yeah.
So anyway. It's going to be a tough game for Danielian. She's rated 24.87, Berkes rated 26.69.
I'm going to ask our production team very quickly. We had the things there, but can I just ask you, can you look at the Bartel game and tell me if it's classical Dutch? I just want to know, because I haven't seen a classical Dutch at this level for years, and I just wanted to know if the Bartel game was classical Dutch.
We should also look at Natalia Zhukova's game, if we could take a look at that one, please. So Zhukova, let's just cut down and look at that. And of course she has...
So she's half a point off the lead as well.
She has black. She's playing Hamducci, another very tough pairing. Hamducci from France, rated 26.16, Zhukova here with black, and it's a 4-knight. Wow, this is a very old variation.
This reminds me of like a game of birds, the current position. I think Henry Bird. Was it Henry Bird? It was a very famous game with a Queen F3 to A3 idea, which I don't know. I mean, okay, we can have a look, but this is a very old line. Again, my theory on E4, E5 is limited to the King's Gambit.
Well, I'm intrigued to see that Zhukova has 1 hour and 14 minutes remaining on the clock, whereas Hamducci is already down to 38 minutes.
Right. Okay.
So this is absolutely mad. White is a pawn up, but
this looks like great compensation for black. That'd be my first instinct. I mean, black's got the open B file to attack along.
This is on
pressure. Yeah.
And if random queen move, queen g3, then we can take on d4, I suppose.
Yeah.
and black rolls on. There's another
exactly.
c pawn.
You get your pawn back as well here.
Yeah.
So.
And e5 is hanging as well. So okay, what?
I like the
Tricky.
I really do. Yeah.
So what do you play? Okay, here's a grovelly move. Bishop e1. Not a move I want to play.
Probably, but
Or bishop e3. Which one? I'll play bishop e3.
okay.
Don't like either move, frankly. But anyway,
If I go c4, you have to put your queen on d2. I'd imagine. Maybe you can go e2 and put your king on d2, but it looks funny.
okay, we'll
Go sensible, shall we? Yeah.
go sensible.
Go sensible for now. And
Oh, you could even just play rook b8 here, or maybe take on e3 first. I'm slightly worried that the bishop is going to go to g5, and then the knight is sort of stranded. So we could take this off.
yeah.
And then rook b8. I don't know. This one doesn't look so bad for white. Maybe we should go back and look after bishop e3.
Yeah. Okay. Because the other option is maybe to take on d4 and go c5. That looks quite critical as well. But you go queen. You have to go queen takes. And
Maybe tricky.
I mean, there's some crazy lines there, Danny. I'm thinking c5, queen takes d5, queen a5.
Well, what if let's play knight takes first. Let's throw that in, because now I don't like pawn takes, so we'll play queen takes, and that buys black a bit of time. And then perhaps just bishop e6. Black's a pawn down, but it looks like comp to me. A bit of comp. Or maybe c6. c6 perhaps. And that way we're ready to travel with the queen quite quickly. It's some compensation.
Yeah. I mean, I think this could be a very interesting game, because even in that last line, Danny, there was some. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was just looking at some crazy variations. It might be rubbish, and I do suggest my fill of rubbish at times. But after this, I'm just wondering if you can. Is this completely mad? Something like this, and take on c3? It probably is. I don't have many pieces attacking. I have no pieces attacking, because I was hoping I'd get my bishop in the game, but then I get checkmated in one move. So, okay, but it's certainly compensation, isn't it? So for black, if black even just plays.
Well, it's funny. It's very interesting. You know, Hamducci after the position after knight g4.
Yeah.
Hamducci he's down to under 35 minutes, and they've only played 10 moves. I mean, that is very serious time pressure.
I'd imagine
looming.
I'd imagine this kind of position that Talia would really want to have as well, because to be honest, if she's got a chance of winning the ladies' prize outright, I think she has to win this game. So she needs a dynamic position.
She's in contention.
And this is exactly the kind of position you need or want when you're going for a win. So it's technical. Should we have a look at?
Let's go back to board one and see how Vlad and you are doing. Yu Yangyi being watched very intently by Bela Khotanashvili. Have you noticed that? Very interesting.
Do you think there's something going on there?
Well, I don't want to gossip.
No.
We'll leave it there, I think.
Do you reckon there's been many things going on in the C tournament here, Danny?
I wouldn't like to say. Like to see, and I think we should possibly steer clear of that one.
Boo.
Okay, so we left the position round. Vlad didn't play the bishop round. He played b5.
Okay.
Really interesting. Well, that shakes things up. That's quite a committal move, b5. And Yu Yangyi's still thinking here. He's got 57 minutes remaining. I don't know how accurate the clock times we're seeing are.
So it's still a very solid position, I think, this one. I mean, it's committal b5 though, because you are sort of opening yourself up to weaken some squares, which the white knight has come into.
I'm told the clock times are very accurate.
Very accurate.
But the thing is, on the monitor, it's white to play, and yet black's clock time is ticking down. So if
Okay.
if our technicians would like
think-
to explain that one, I'd be very grateful.
Do you think it's weird? Sometimes these clocks, there's a big hoo-ha with these digital clocks, especially in blitz. I've seen cases where someone's hit the clock too hard, but it's bounced back, and
Right.
even though they've made their move, their clock's still ticking.
Yeah.
So you should maybe, you have to treat the clock with a little bit of respect sometimes. So
Really? Have you ever done that, Simon?
I
Treated
love
the clock
banging
with
the clock,
respect?
give it a big bang, show the clock who's boss.
You,
So
you might get a glare from your opponent.
yeah, okay. No, I don't. I try not to.
Yeah, but there are certain players who are famous for slamming the clock.
it was,
Actually,
yeah, it's very
I'm afraid. Yeah,
Are you-
I remember Mihai Shuba. Do you remember the Romanian grandmaster
Yeah,
who
vaguely,
came
yeah.
to? Well, he defected to England.
Yeah.
Actually, around about the time just before the revolution in the late 80s in Romania. He defected to England. And so he played in lots of English tournaments, and he was famous for kind of, slamming the clock, his banging his pieces and slamming the clock down. I remember my friend Will Watson looked up at him after one of these banging moves, and he said, "Excuse me, is that strictly necessary?" It was a very English way
Very
of
nice
putting
way
it.
of saying it.
I'll tell you what, that harsh words from Will.
Harsh words, yeah. Understated words. So, but it's funny how people move the pieces. You have screwers.
Well,
Who screw the pieces into the board, and you have sort of flamboyant twisters.
Oh, really?
So they twist the pieces into the board.
Yeah.
You have lots of different techniques to moving the pieces. I always find it quite fascinating. Mickey Adams likes putting the piece in. He kind of gives it a little screw,
a little twist.
like you're
twist.
screwing a screw into the board. He just
Yeah.
screws the piece in, and I think it's quite interesting to watch this. The bangers are the worst, though. Like these cowboy bangers. But
Yeah.
Okay, so he has played. I think he's played Bishop E3. We have got an update which looks very sensible here. What do you think of B5? I mean, I for me, it's a move that I wouldn't personally consider. Again, I don't understand these positions obviously as well as
I think it's a way of sidelining the knight, actually.
sidelining this guy.
I know, the knight is quite stable on A5, but I suppose we have to think, well, it's really it's kind of a one-dimensional
Yeah.
piece in a sense. It's very clear what black has to do with. So just
I mean,
thinking, sorry, go on.
yeah, I was wondering if I can ever do
Yes,
this.
well,
then-
that's
then
a different
this is
story, but that's why
massive,
I'm
yeah?
thinking in this position,
Yeah.
perhaps we could nudge the bishop back to B6 and even play C5. Is that possible? Well, maybe we still have the option of dropping bishop back to D6. So let me try that one. So yeah, this move B4 is nice, but C5?
Otherwise, I go knight B3
Yes.
and clamp on C5.
Well, let me try that one.
This seems like an idea.
Don't know. I still prefer white, I have to say. I just like white's pawn structure here. But black is very solid. I don't know. Let me go another way. Let me try bishop D6 this time, and I still want to play C5. And in this way, this one looks a bit better actually. I think because
Can I play
I'm
some weird
stopping.
move like knight B7 ridiculous? I want to hit A7. Strangely enough, I mean,
So now I'm going to play C5. So I've got my move in basically.
I can even rook A6, and then I try to
Yeah.
double on the A file.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something strange like take on D6, Queen A1.
Yeah, doesn't look bad at all. No, interesting. I'm not exactly sure.
I mean, obviously Kramnik knows what he's doing, but I don't know what he's doing.
Well, interestingly,
So,
it's gone bishop E3, bishop B6, and it has gone B4.
Right. Okay.
So we've got
intriguing.
that position on the board. So let me just
Yeah.
promote that. Just 1 second. There we go. That's the position on the board. No, we've got one more move. A couple more moves. We've got castles. And now Queen D2. So Vlad's just not really fussed about the knight coming back to B3. I still prefer white. White
Yeah.
is slightly better here, to my eyes.
I mean, is Vlad? Does Vlad ever play F5? I'm wondering. I mean, it's a very committal move to play.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can go F5, F4, F5 take on E4, great. But I think after F5, white, I'm assuming
Whip it off.
Whip it off, and
Yeah, well,
this is a very committal decision
okay.
from black.
Well, now
these pawns like
I
this.
turn in the other direction because
At least my knight sits maybe.
the knight
okay.
the knight is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
this
it
is
is.
obviously black's best piece. So here I might let's first of all we'll spin back with the knight to b3.
Knight to b3, and now I was hoping I could again. Very positionally committal playing f4.
Okay,
here.
so
I mean,
now-
this is an all-in. This is the kind of move you play when you're trying to win the game.
Okay, so I take on b6.
And now, okay, I'll take. I want to take with the a pawn, but I want to save the tempo for f3.
Well,
I don't trust this particularly.
Okay.
But maybe it's just tactically dangerous because
Yeah,
f3 is coming.
yeah, but now of course I
Stop.
I stop f3 in an instant, and then I turn towards the e pawn,
definitely,
and this
yeah.
is just very good
positionally
for
very
white.
bad.
Yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out that this f5 move is a very double-edged move for black to play, and probably bad. But if black's not playing f5, what kind of pawn break does he make? Because in these type of structures, you can play about your pieces. But white's playing knight b3 next. I mean, if white can play knight b3...
Well, let me come back to this move c5.
c5, okay. Yeah. And c5 must be correct way to play.
And one thing, again, I want to stress is that I don't think white is in any danger in this kind of position.
No, we can play on forever. I think you have to probably take this one. And now, can I take and put knight b3 as
Knight
well?
b3, yeah.
Knight b3,
White-
simple chess, yeah.
White is slightly better.
If you take on, it's not because this is what I was saying about this pawn on b5. I mean, if I can move the pawn on b5 back to b6, I'd be so much more comfortable with black. I mean, just in this structure, if you can imagine this pawn on b5, just moving back here, I think black's position has improved quite greatly because having a pawn here weakens a5. I mean, potentially a piece comes here. It also even weakens. I mean, I don't know. With a pawn on b6, you can play a5 yourself with black. This is not really possible now. It weakens c5 because the pawn can no longer control that square. And it just seems a bit more shaky having a pawn on b5.
Okay,
Is that fair to say, or
No, yeah. I mean, white is structurally better here. You can see that basically white has one pawn island, no gaps there at all, and black has two pawn islands. So white is slightly better. I would choose white every time. What about let's calm the farm and play bishop b6.
No, maybe I'd come in with the rooks. Rook a6, rook a1.
Yeah.
I just want to double up, try to win a7 simply.
c5. Not so simple. Now it's different because if I'm holding this, then that's not so
That is
bad.
good,
So I think that's all right.
Okay, so
But white is still better here. Even something very tedious like this, maybe this isn't so bad for black.
queen b4 to try
Queen
to stop
b4.
c5. I mean, last move maybe.
Last move, yes.
Maybe just
Yeah.
play queen b4 and hope you can't break with c. Maybe you can break with a5 and c5, something strange like this. I'm thinking a5, knight takes a5, c5 gets quite tactical. I don't know if this works. So, is there any?
Still okay for white, isn't it?
Still okay
but,
for white.
But can we?
Yeah.
We can't transpose those moves. Can I play? That's tricky. Let me try that. So
That's
c5.
a much trickier way to play, isn't
So
it?
knight takes. Now my queen's on pre, so I have to take that. And now we hit the queen. And then
I have queen b3 at some stage, which I think is annoying.
straight away, yes.
Probably straight away, annoying.
Yeah, and a4 and
Okay.
yeah, so that's still okay. So queen b4 is interesting.
Yeah.
Let's just go back now. But again, I don't think black should panic here because even that bishop does a pretty good job of controlling some squares. Well, white is slightly better.
Okay, I mean,
let's move on.
Lots of stuff are happening in Jacobian versus Giri, and actually Jacobian has gone for this g6 move rather than captured on g7. For me, this g6 move seemed very dangerous for Giri, and Giri serious material up, but this is a really rock and rolling Sicilian defence we have here, the board 2 game, and also this could decide who comes in second place in the tournament. And we simply had this last couple of moves as predicted. We had g5, knight e4, which looks like an active square, and now bishop g7 was interesting. Let's not look at that maybe, let's just concentrate on the g6 move. And this is trying to chip away at black's king side, open up the black king, and the black king is stuck on e8. So black material up, but white is attacking. Now, for example, if you go f takes g6 here, I'm assuming queen takes e6 is the key move, and you create a lot of squares for your pieces. And this looks like a very promising position. Bishop coming to c4 to me. How does black defend this? Because I'm always coming in with a bishop d3 or bishop c4, gaining a tempo on your bishop on h1. So, from my eyes, okay, has he played a
Look
move?
at Geary.
Oh,
Look at Geary.
Well, he's back to his poses again. He's back to, please God, give me some help.
Well,
here.
I tell you what, Geary's under big pressure because this could be 3 losses in a row, and I think
This looks
very,
like he's
very
sinking.
tough.
Can he sink any lower? He'd be underground.
How low can you go?
There'd at least be a floor below if he sunk any further down.
Oh, look, his girlfriend.
I love his girlfriend to come along and just push his head down.
Well, Sopiko's coming along. She's there. We can see. No, she's not. Look, she can't. She doesn't want to look.
She's straight past the board.
Straight past.
It looks very kind of scary. And
Well, I tell you what. I think
scary.
I
don't.
we would both take white every time for this.
I don't care what the computer says here. I don't care because
No.
I mean this is a position where practically white is attacking, throwing pieces at scary. So yeah, I totally agree. White has it. And
Shall we take a little break there? We'll be back in a few minutes. I think it's time for a fresh cup of tea, and we will see you back with the action in about 5 minutes or so.